Hello, 4th grade. Today we're going to be working on lesson 10-10, comparing mixed numbers. And I am on page 155 in your workbook. Remember that a mixed number has two parts. We have the whole number part and the fraction part. So I'm going to start with comparing on number 1 on page 155. And number 1, I'm asked to compare 8 2/3 to 9 11/12. Well, if I look at my whole numbers, I can see I have an 8 and a 9. So I don't even have to look at the fractions. I just have to compare my whole numbers because they're different. So 8 is less than 9. So 8 2/3 is less than 9 11/12. And if I go to number 3, I see I have the same thing. I have two different whole numbers. So I don't even have to look at the fractions. I just have to look at my whole numbers. And I can see that 6 is greater than 5. But it doesn't always work that way. Sometimes I have the same whole number and different fractions. So in number 5, I have 5 3/5 compared to 5 3/4. So I can look and I can see that my 5s are the same. So I have to look at my fractions and decide which fraction is bigger, 3/4 or 3/5. So I'm going to get out my fraction strips here. Here's 3/4. And then here's 3/5. And I can see that 3/4 is larger than 3/5. So 5 3/5 is less than 5 3/4. Now let's look at number 9. On number 9, I also have mixed numbers where the whole numbers are the same. Both whole numbers on number 13. No, on number 9, I'm sorry. The whole number is 13. On number 9, it's 13 3/4 compared to 13 4/6. Both of them are 13s. So I have to compare my fractions. 3/4 and 4/6. Here's 3/4. And then here's 4/6. And I can see that 3/4 is larger than 4/6. So 13 3/4 is greater than 13 4/6. Now we'll go to number 13. Number 13, I have 9 5/10 compared to 9 2/5. So once again, I have the same whole number, but different fractions. So I have to look at my fractions because 9 is the same as 9. So I have 5/10. There's 5/10. And then 2/5. And I can see that 5/10 is greater than 2/5. So 9 5/10 is greater than 9 2/5. Now we're going to look at the next page, 156, because this is actually the page that you are going to be doing on your own. Page 156. Let's look at number 5. In the top part, you're just comparing the fractions like we just did. Remember, check the whole numbers first. If they're the same, then you have to look at the fraction. But if they're different, like on number 2, you only have to look at the whole number. But let's go to number 5. It asks you to fill in a numerator. It says 9 3/5 is equal to 9 and how many tenths? So I'm going to write that down. 9 3/5 equals 9 and how many tenths? So I have my whole number is the same, so I just need to figure out 3/5 is equal to how many tenths? So I have my fraction strips here. Here's 3/5, and you can use your fraction strips for this. I'll put down my tenths until they're even. So I can see right there that 3/5 is equivalent to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tenths. Remember, you could have also done that by multiplying, saying 3/5 equals how many tenths? Remember, 5 times 2 is 10, and 3 times 2 is 6, because I can make an equivalent fraction by multiplying numerator and denominator by the same number. All right, now let's go to number 7. Number 7 says 1 1/10 is less than 1 and how many fifths. So if I have 1, here's my 1, and 1/10. I want that to be less than 1 and how many fifths? Well, I know that the 1 is going to be the same, so I just have to do fifths. Well, 1/10 is less than 1/5. And it's also less than 2/5 or 3/5. Okay, you could put 1 as your numerator there, or 2, or 3, or 4. Okay, and we have one more question that I'm going to do with you. Number 9. This is a word problem. Zoe babysits for 1 3/4 hours on Monday, 2 1/2 hours on Tuesday, and 1 1/3 hours on Wednesday. On which day does Zoe babysit for the shortest length of time? Explain how you found your answer. Well, we know that Zoe babysits on 3 days. So that's the first thing we're going to do is write the days. She does Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. On Monday, she babysits for 1 3/4 hours. On Tuesday, 2 1/2 hours. And on Wednesday, 1 1/3 hours. And we're looking for when she babysat the shortest length of time. Well, my whole numbers are not all the same. 2 is bigger than 1, so I can automatically eliminate Tuesday because that's when she babysat for the longest amount of time. So I'm just left with Monday and Wednesday, 1 3/4 and 1 1/3. So I have to compare my fractions because the whole numbers are the same. So here's 3/4, and here is 1/3. And I can see that 3/4 is greater than 1/3. So 1 3/4 is greater than 1 1/3. So my question says, on which day did she babysit for the shortest length of time? That would be Wednesday. Zoe babysat for the shortest length of time on Wednesday.